Have you ever had one of those brilliant, game-changing ideas? Of course you have. But turning that spark into a real, tangible thing, well, that's a whole other story. That's where project management comes in. It's the engine that takes a great idea and actually makes it happen.
So here's the journey we're going to take in this explainer. We'll start with the basics. What even makes something a project? Then we'll see how it gets off the ground, how the plan comes together, how you keep it from going off the rails, and finally, how you wrap it all up to make sure it was worth it.
All right, first things first. What exactly is a project? I mean, how is it any different from all the other stuff we do at work every day? Getting this right is, well, step one.
I think we all know the answer to this one, right? We've all seen these huge, ambitious plans just fizzle out. They miss deadlines, the budget balloons out of control, or some unexpected problem just completely torpedoes the whole thing. Good project management is basically the shield against all that chaos.
And this definition really nails it. Two words are key here: temporary and different. A project has a clear beginning and a clear end. It's not your normal day-to-day grind. It's being done to create something totally new, and that's exactly why you can't treat it like business as usual.
You know, this hot air balloon is the perfect way to think about it. You've got a destination in mind, that's your goal. You have a flight plan, you've got a team on board to help you navigate, and you know the journey isn't going to last forever. That's a project in a nutshell.
Okay, so how does this journey even begin? Every single project starts with that initial idea, a phase we call startup.
You can't have a project without a champion. This person, often called the Senior Responsible Owner, or SRO, is absolutely vital. Think of them as the executive producer of a movie. They're the one who's ultimately on the hook for the project's success and making sure it has what it needs to even get started.
And right at the start, you get these two foundational documents. The project brief is like the movie poster. It's the high-level pitch that answers the big why. If everyone likes the poster, then you move on to the project initiation document, or PID. And that's the full-blown script, the budget, the whole production plan that answers the critical question, okay, how are we actually going to pull this off?
So the project gets the green light based on the PID. Now what? Well, now it's time to create the master plan, the detailed blueprint that will guide everything.
And this planning phase follows a really logical sequence. You don't just start throwing dates on a calendar. First, you lock down the scope. What are we doing? And just as important, what are we not doing? Then you figure out what you'll actually produce. Break that down into tasks, schedule it all out, and crucially, think about what could go wrong before you get that final stamp of approval.
A huge part of this is setting what we call SMART objectives. Vague goals like improve the system are useless, but reduce turnaround times by 30%? Now that's a target you can actually aim for. And that A for achievable is so important. You want a goal that stretches the team, for sure, but doesn't break them. It has to be realistic.
It's easy to be optimistic when you're planning, right? Everything looks great on paper. But a good plan doesn't just hope for the best, it prepares for the worst. And this is where risk management becomes one of the project manager's most important jobs.
And this is a classic tool for that, a risk assessment matrix. Teams look at every potential problem and ask two simple questions. How likely is it to happen? And if it does, how bad will it be? Anything that ends up in that top right red box, well, you better have a plan for it. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. Look, you're never going to eliminate all risk. That's impossible. The goal is to see the uncertainty coming, understand it, and manage it so it doesn't sink your project.
All right, the plan is approved. The team is ready. Now we hit the longest, most challenging phase, actually doing the work. This is all about navigating the journey, day in and day out, to get to that final destination.
And we're back with our balloon. It's the perfect metaphor for this stage. The project is airborne, and the project manager? They're the pilot. They can't just set the course and take a nap. They're constantly checking their instruments, monitoring progress, and applying a little heat. You know, resources, decisions, direction, to keep things on the right track.
So what does that look like in practice? The manager has a whole set of controls. They're delegating work, they're watching the budget and the timeline like a hawk, they're making sure the quality is there, and they're constantly communicating progress and problems up to leadership.
Now, to keep things from getting bogged down, most projects use a really smart principle called management by exception. It basically means the project board trusts the project manager to handle the small stuff. They don't need a report on every tiny bump in the road. They only need to be pulled in for the big exceptions, the major issues that threaten the whole plan.
The finish line is in sight.
All the hard work is done, the product is built, but you're not done yet. You can't just walk away. It's time to bring this thing in for a controlled, successful landing.
And just like a pilot runs through a post-flight checklist, a project gets formally closed out. You make sure everything you promised to do is done, you hand over the final product, and, this is so important, you capture the lessons learned. What went well? What was a disaster? You write it down so the next project can be even better.
And this brings us to a super important idea, the difference between project success and benefits realization. See, delivering that new software on time and on budget, that's project success. Awesome. But did that software actually reduce turnaround times by 30% a year later? That is benefits realization. That's the long-term value you were after all along.
This visual just captures it perfectly. The real measure of success isn't the party you have on launch day. It's the lasting, positive impact the project has long after the project team has packed up and moved on to the next challenge.
And that leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Just because a project is done doesn't automatically make it a success. True success is measured by the value it creates over time. In a lot of ways, the end of the project is really just the beginning of its story.